So, hello everyone. I guess everything is working. Let me just mute it a bit. And yeah, so today I will be continuing doing the Red Storm because on the last stream I did not manage to paint him nicely, like to give him some colors and everything. So today I will kinda, I guess, show you how I usually approach this type of things, not only in this, let's say, challenge, but how usually I do it. So it might actually turn into some sort of a like small tutorial or something like this, where I would like to share maybe some tips and something like this. So basically this is the thing that I finished previously. This is the sketch for it, how it looked like, and here are some random things. There's an arrow in the knee, so everything is prepared. So I guess this one will be a bit shorter because like I only need to like render it nicely, but we will see how it will turn out. So let me just move everything a little bit more to the center, clean it up a bit, and let me show you the first. And this layer is what? It's nothing. And let me show you the first cool trick that I really like to use when painting pretty much anything. So the basic idea is to fill out the silhouette with actual color, so with like a flat color. So when I will be painting something, I will be clipping it to the actual silhouette that I will like now pretty much just do. And usually if you are dealing with something that is a little bit more complex, it might take time to just basically go through like the entire thing in here to just like retrace every single line, every single curve and everything. But there's actually a really easy way to do it. Maybe it's not like the best way to do it, but it's really fast, and with like 5 minutes of adjusting time you will get a really decent result. So basically you fill out the entire silhouette with like a solid color, and by solid color I mean that if I paint anything with a color underneath it, it won't like go through the gray color because it is not a transparent type of a thing. And if I will give it some transparency, you can see the color is shining through underneath it. So if you go to the eraser tool and you will switch to the magic eraser tool, in here you can select the contiguous, sample all layers, and tolerance. So usually a tolerance like quite low for like 5 or something like this. And because you selected all layers, it will pretty much take account also the lines that are above the layer. So if I erase it, as you can see, it erases everything like accordingly to the lines. But as you can see, if I have like this underlaying sketch underneath it, it will also take care of it. Like it will also take it in accordance. So I guess it's better to leave only like your cleaner line art, not the entire sketch, and you can like pretty much just remove it. As you can see in here, it kinda like went through and went inside the character, most likely because I have some sort of a like opening in here. So this method really works well when your silhouette actually is fully closed, and it's pretty much easy to see where it's opened. So you can, for example, do something like this, and you can see if the opening is in here or is in here. So it's somewhere in here, and it turns out these are the mouth most likely, and that is in here. Also, if you are drawing the lines, remember to be on a correct layer. So pretty much what I have to do now is to kind of like finish the liner so it won't be close anymore, but on the right layer. Because if you do this on the wrong layer, then it will kind of be pointless later. So as I said, this method works really well, but only when your line art is like really intact, when it is really like closed. And let's see now, still there's a hole somewhere. So let me see. And the hole is in here, I guess. Let's see. No. So I will remove it. And now it kind of shows most likely this method is not like quicker anyhow. But stuff like this happen. I still much more prefer this method. So yeah, the opening was somewhere up top, not in here. In here there's an opening. And somewhere in here it must be open. So it is open in here and in here. To be honest, I do not even know if you need to have like a line art that is like perfectly closed for anything else than this method. I do not really see a point in doing like a line art extremely like precisely, but if you will be aware of the fact that you are going to use this method, maybe it will like kind of speed up your process or something like this. Also, it can greatly like increase your attention to details. So in the end, you will be a little bit more precise with your drawings and everything. So it's a little bit more back and forth. But also I think it can improve the general quality of the entire painting if you like know that you do not have any openings and everything. The whole line art is a little bit more clear or intact. So maybe it can play a small difference. Sometimes also if you have places like this where you have a stroke but not really, where it's like really delicate, then you can like reduce the tolerance of a brush, of an eraser, because it can go through something, things like this. I guess the tolerance, like tolerance number 10, kind of means it can like go through something that has 10% black in it. Now this method do not really shine, as it turns out my line art is extremely messy and has a lot of holes in it. So next time I will need to be a little bit more careful with it. Yeah, let's just do it by hand. So as you can see, the method failed. Line art is too messy, too many holes. So next time I will simply like keep it a little bit more intact. And this is pretty much the second way you can do it. So basically you just fill everything up in, I guess you fill in everything, and then you just remove the excess. So it can also work pretty nicely, especially if you are like sketching. The entire silhouette do not even need to be like extremely precise. So then this method like maybe even be faster. I wanted to show you just a trick that you can do. Maybe it will work way better with some renderings, because sometimes people render stuff with the outline type of a shader. So then I can imagine the shader being way more precise and not leaving any areas open. So I guess it can then work in a bit better manner. But for like a smaller openings like in here, instead of like erasing them by hand, I can easily go with the magic eraser tool. And a cool part about like making a silhouettes and everything, it kind of allows you to slow down with everything that you are doing, so you don't really need any like brain power to do this. You can pretty much just sit like maybe not entire day, because that will be like extremely boring, but you can sit and pretty much it won't like really waste, or maybe not waste, it will not use a lot of energy, because you do not really need to think that hard while doing it. Hello, Mikołaj. While doing it, so it can be a good thing, for example, to do after doing all the drawings and designing and everything. Usually if I schedule somehow my like workflow, I usually tend to do all the hard work first, so drawing everything first, like designing everything first, and then when I feel like, okay, now I'm kind of like exhausted at the moment that I burned a lot of energy and I don't really feel like thinking at the moment, only then I will like just go in with the blocking silhouettes and everything, and then I will just simply block the silhouettes because I can do this like relatively fast even when I'm tired, and it pretty much most of the times needs to be done, and I don't really want to do it when I feel that I have like a lot of energy in myself that could be used somewhere else. So planning your workflow might be actually quite important. Let me just remove the small outline with the excess. And yeah, this is pretty much the entire silhouette. So for the coloring, the first thing that I usually will do is I will create a distinctive light and shadow. So I would choose like a darker color, and now I will basically just paint the shadow shapes that I expect in here, that I expect this guy to have. So at first I usually will try to do everything like really sharp, so I will have like a really clear distinction on what is in the shadow, what is not in the shadow. And because of like simplifying it to like the really simple forms, I also forgot to add the tail to this guy, so I will like draw it soon. But also because I will be like really simplifying all the shadows and everything, it will kind of allow me to understand the volume a little bit better. And the long story short, like the trick to it, I guess, is that if something is casting shadow onto something, so for example, like the arm is casting shadow onto the leg, or like the delt is casting like a shadow into the armpit, then the shadow will be kind of like sharp visually. And if the surface, if the volume is basically changing like the plane direction, so let's say the thigh, at some point it will just have like this crease, this line that will kind of mean that the shadow in here, that the solid is in self shadow, so it's not lit by anything. And usually those shadows are soft. So if I were like to paint it later, most likely this shadow in here will just be soft. So let me just show it to you. Because like this area gets less and less light. So yeah, that's pretty much all. I don't know if it's clear or if it makes sense, but this is how it works. Also recently I lost some of my brushes, so you can also use like smudge tool with something with scattering, so then it will kind of like make the entire thing, like you can make a shadows then, but you will need to like work with a bit more delicate ratio for it. And also this is the reason why I usually prefer to draw every shadow sharp at first, and then I will simply just like make them softer, so it's easier for me to think about the things at the same time. Or I can simply like remove them, like erase them. So yeah, so I expect the arm to basically like change the geometry. Someone who is like kind of dealing with 3D could say that what I am doing right now is like the way I am painting it is kind of like doing the ambient occlusion pass. So basically ambient occlusion is if there's more geometry, it will get darker. Kinda is the situation when where the light is from pretty much everywhere, and it kinda makes the geometry like getting darker. Let me show you the example so it will be a bit easier to understand. Ambient occlusion pass, because this is also a thing that makes the geometry read way better. So I guess it's best to be shown in the interior that I found on the web. So basically, if there's a geometry like nearby, it will create this small like shadows. Basically, it will darken the environment around. So this is like the similar thing to happen in here. But for this guy, I'm kind of like doing the ambient occlusion and the shadows at the same time, because I do not want to really spend like hours and hours trying to like do all of this at the same time, like doing all the passes like differently. I am kind of tired today because pretty much the whole day I had to like read all the emails, rework some stuff and everything. So I might not be as sharp today. Not that I am saying that I am usually am sharp, but today I might respond a bit slower to everything. And if anyone has any questions whatsoever, then feel free to ask. I will gladly answer everything that I can. And for doing ambient occlusion, I really recommend this brush because it allows you to like create a really sharp shadow and a really soft shadow, basically with the same brush. So it's a really cool thing to have. This is like one of my favorite brushes that I do have, so it's really worth checking out. The problem with this method, the only problem that I have with this method is it will kind of give you always the same looking result in a sense if you do not really like paint over it like really quite a lot. So it's a good thing to know that exists, but overusing it might kind of cause every single artwork to look pretty much the same. Because if someone like do understand the volume, the geometry and everything and whatnot, and the same method will be used, I can imagine the paintings will look really, really similar. Hello, Jakub. Whatever Yeha means. And also, usually the legs will be a bit darker at the bottom part. And in here, we have a quad. And I guess the stomach area should be a bit darker. So in here there is a bit of a guessing on like what goes where and how it should like behave. But as I said, it's still quite an okay method to work with. And with this brush you can also like make really cool looking striations of the muscles, especially when like the thing that you are drawing is extremely muscular, and this guy is pretty much like muscles on top of muscles. So it can really nicely give you those additional details that you might need in your artwork. So yeah, the eye will be darker at the moment. Later I will kind of like lit it up because I think this guy deserves some like glowy eyes, type of an eyes. So, but this will be added later. At this point I do not really care about this thing. And some folks will like paint their shadows while actually doing the colors and everything. This is also a good method, but I wanted to show you how you can approach it this way. Maybe in the next stream I will show you a different method that I have learned from some different tutorials and everything that is also extremely cool to apply to your artwork because it kind of guarantees you a good outcome. So yeah. And also if you are like painting stuff like this, try to constantly imagine how like the volume can kind of lit up. So in here I kind of would expect this entire hand to be in the shadow, and I would also expect like the bottom part of this hand to also be in the shadow, maybe the side of this finger to also be in there. And later I will need to add like a little bit more light to the hands because this guy will hold like electricity in his arms, in his hands, because this demon basically shoots lightning bolts onto you, so it will be cool to give him like some flashy magic, even if something as simple as this. So yeah, I would say this is like the most basic shadow. I guess the entire chest area will be a little bit more like this, because I really want the stomach to be kind of vacuumed inside, so it will show like the dimension that the vacuum, basically that the stomach and the chest goes like this. So this is the chest, and then there's like a stomach, so he's like sucking it in, and I think it would create this point of interest into it. And because of it, I guess the entire chest should be a bit darker. Yeah, but basically this will be the base. So, and also the horns will like cast some shadows onto the body. The entire head will cast a bit of a shadow. I don't really want to go extra, like precise with all the shadows and everything, but I want them to be like close enough to be believable. And this will be all fine with me. And now when I have like the shadows pretty much set in, I will try to add a little bit more light to it. So since the entire environment is basically white, so the light from the top also I expect to be light, and I will set it up for the screen. So basically, as far as I know, as like Konstantinos told me, mathematically screen is the only like valid method to add light to your things. Like maybe not the only valid method, but it's a really nice method that will nicely change the colors later, so it will affect them in a way they would be affected most likely in the real life, or really closely enough they would be affected. So I will add a little bit more to the top of each geometry. And what is really cool about this method is you can go like back and forth with everything. So if I need to add like a little bit more shadow somewhere, because I will feel like it needs just more shadow, then I can just switch between layers, because the lights and the shadows are kept on different layers. So it's a really easy method to kind of like take care of. And also because I am now just like pretty much more painting it, like rendering it nicely, I guess it starts to kind of shy away from the original intent of kind of making them look like inks. But I guess like this whole challenge will kind of evolve into something a bit more complex than I expected it to be at the beginning. But it's okay, I guess. I'm fine with like basically trying to do something in a bit more complex manner. And also the thing that I really like to do after like specifying all the shadows and everything is to actually take like a really huge soft brush, just go on top of everything and change the layer mode to like overlay or maybe a soft light, because I expect the top part to be a bit more brighter. So as you can see, it kind of brightens up all the deep shadows and everything. So this is a really cool method to actually bring a little bit more light into the whole thing. But if I will now just select those layers and make them blue, I can add some basic colors to him. So basically this guy is red, and as far as I know, like the proper way to add colors to your paintings is by using multiply. It also is a way to add textures and everything. So basically the color of the skin is a texture. In here I don't really need to like use multiply, because I could just like make everything red and it will look like somehow. But now if you see, if I use the multiply, then the whole thing gets a bit darker. So most likely I will need to use a brighter shade of red. And also this is kind of the thing with those methods with the screen. In here, basically the reds will kinda, and the shadows should also be set not on normal. they should be set like on multiply, but I will like reduce the opacity of them so they will affect everything nicely. But as you can see, the lights are pretty much causing the red to go into this like pinkish type of a color. It kind of desaturates everything and kind of like keeps it a little bit more up. And if we were to use like overlay, let's say, for example, then it will create this like maybe a little bit more interesting looking like shades of red. But I strongly believe this is kind of not a way how the red will brighten up. It will of course get brighter, so maybe I will keep just like this layer to increase the feeling of the volume, but then I will add like a screen on top of it and kind of change how it affects everything that it has in here. So this is like a lot of playing with sliders, but I strongly believe that every single thing that you are going to paint is going to be slightly different. So because of it, like small adjustment in the method that you are using are completely fine. So now, as you can see, I told the thing to like not cover everything. It will only cover like the brighter parts. So I think just flickered and it looks like it restarted the stream. It shows me it's live for like, oh no, I guess it's working. It shows the time, not right. So you can like, you can't really color pick everything without like changing the layer into normal and then like color picking it, turning everything off and then just going back to like everything. So you can just like change in here on the top part from all layers to current layer, and then you can only like color pick the color that is actually in here. And I am doing it because I want to give the entire thing a little bit more of variations. So I will turn on the color dynamics in the brush setup. You cannot, brush settings, you cannot really see it because it captures only the Photoshop screen. But basically in the brush settings, not in here, there are those settings. And the hue saturation basically will be set to like 10%. So it basically, what it will basically do, it will cause every single like stroke to leave a bit different like color underneath it. So as you can see, it basically changes the color with each stroke. So now I can like take a brush that has like some texture on it, like maybe like some, just basically something on it, so the texture is a little bit more interesting. But as you can see, it will bring, did Photoshop crash already? Of course it did. This is the Diablo roulette. Open recent, next monster. I hope it's saved. Yeah. So this will allow me to add a little bit more variation to the skin with some colors that most likely I would not pick like by myself. So basically some artifacts and everything. It will make the entire thing look a little bit more interesting. And also later I can basically just color pick from it, so I will get all these different hues. And I kinda like can color pick them and change them in a way that I feel will look okay. So at the same time I am also adding some textures to it. I will blend some of the textures. So yeah, basically this is how I approach adding color to things. And you can of course experiment with everything. So for example, as you can see, this is how overlay will look with all the shadows. You can just try like using different things. In here, for example, the darker color looks kind of cool because it creates this like vintage type of a look. It gives like this very specific type of a shadow color into it, so it looks also cool. And the other thing that you can do, that pretty much also I wanted to show you in the next video, is to basically choose the same thing, like basically the same guy. I will choose like the darker color, and I can also shade it on the same layer. So I will keep using this guy. I think the multiply or darker color actually looks cool. I really like how darker color looks, but I also like how the multiply gives a bit sharper result. I guess I will go with multiply and reduce the opacity even more, to like 65%. And now after adding also the like top layer with the overlay, I think you can see how it becomes a little bit more clear for the viewer. But I will remove it, and now I will kind of like rework the light and everything on this guy. So I created like a new layer on top of every like adjustment that I have done, and now I will like start painting a volume for this guy. So I will like give a little bit more light to it everywhere. Hello, Naimul. I guess this is you. I don't remember your nickname. I guess it was Nai. I hope it is you. And yeah, and also because the horns are colored differently, I will like color pick this like bony type of a color. Thanks a lot. And I will give him basically the colors for the claws and for the horns and everywhere. The problem with it is, as you can see, the fingers, like the claws are really thin. And I kind of wanted to keep them like this. And I wanted to separate them later. Yeah, okay. I was not sure if it was you. Yeah, so I will like, I wanted to keep them like separated from the layers, but long story short, I am, I guess, a bit too lazy to do so. So now I will like only color it briefly. And that's pretty much all. He also has like this bony protrusions on the elbows, but they are kinda impossible to see in here. I will also give a little bit more of this color to the chest. Hello, Boiler. Boiler? Boiler, yep. So, also the thing that I would like to do now is to actually draw a tail, because this guy also has a tail. So I think I will sketch it out like in here. Like 33 minutes at the moment and 2 hours for a drawing, I guess, more or less. So yeah, because I wanted to spend a bit more on the drawing. Do this tail look okay now? No. Yes, maybe. Yep. And now I'm streaming for like 34 minutes, but it looks like it's reset after a while. And I have no idea how long, but the stream seemed to be intact on the YouTube. So yeah, maybe like this. No, I guess this setup makes a bit more sense. So here is a tail, or at least a sketch of a tail. And here is the line art. So now what I need to do is to basically draw a tail, because I forgot about it, to be honest. And I guess the tail in this guy won't be like anything special. It's like basically a thick muscle. I don't think I will be like adding anything like really cool to it. Maybe it could have like some features like the snake, for example, has. So like the bottom part will be like with different scales or something like this. But this guy, I strongly believe, is made out of like skin, made out of like leather. So yeah. So I will like add it in here. Do you have, yeah, because I at the beginning I bought uh, the external card, but the problem with the external card was I did not have all the like sliders and everything, the entire thing, and it was good because I had like audio track box, I guess, but it was nowhere as good as the internal one. It was okay, but it was like okay. The internal one was like night and day difference. So to be honest, if you still can, I will return the external one and I will like buy the internal one because the price difference is not really that big and the difference is like really huge. And after buying the external one, I was reading a bit more about the topic and they basically told like the external one is really okay if you just want to improve the sound quality in like your laptop or something like this, if you're like away from home or anything. So yeah. Yeah, because let me just show you. Wait. I only need to like make a screenshot quickly. For the Sound Blaster, I have like everything in here. So basically, I have like different presets. I can basically do all the stuff with it, like treble, bass, and change encoders, mixers, equalizers, some profiles, and everything. Like everything is under the control. In the external one, it's just process everything like. It's cool. Boiler, yes, everything is pretty much in the video, I guess, on the bottom part of the description. At least it should be in there. So like Twitter, Instagram, Artstation, and everything. Yeah, I guess in here. So if you have them, then I guess it's completely fine then. The one that I bought did not have any of those sliders, so I guess then it is completely okay. So if you have those, then all is fine. And it really makes a difference if you are like listening to music and playing games, especially like Hunt Showdown. Then this is like literally night and day. Yeah, I played with it. It especially makes a difference with cyberpunk music, I would say, because it's like a really heavy electro or techno or whatever, and it does make a difference. I kind of feel like this tail should have a little bit more bones inside of it, like bony landmarks and whatnot, so it will look cooler, but I don't really feel like designing anything cooler today. So I would say this is a really mediocre day for designing anything. Oh, I don't think I do have this option. Nice. And you got the microphone, like the analog one or the USB one for the microphone? Yeah, let's keep it like this. What I'm doing right now is basically like adding to the silhouette, and then I will like expand on like painting this guy. Yeah. The tail in this guy could have been something really cool. I guess the next in those family will have way cooler tail. Ah, so I guess, and the headset is I guess analog one, so it's not the USB type of a thing. That's great. Also, if anyone is, I mean, not wondering, because I don't think anyone is wondering, but Naimul most likely will start his own YouTube channel and everything. So soon we both will have like YouTube channels and whatnot. So after like a week or month or two, I guess he will be boosting my channel with the viewers and everything. And I will be the smaller YouTube guy. And the shadows, I need to add them to the tail. Basically the entire tail will be in the shadows, so yeah, and you will need to learn how to pronounce the Shchigyo. This will be the hard one. And now you will have every single like problem with the technology and everything. Yeah, so basically let me keep like on rendering this guy. I would say this is probably the laziest tail that I have ever done in my entire life. Shit. I hope you will have like shitload of work and you won't manage to do so. It's kind of funny that I can wish you to have like a lot of work in a bad way. But I am up for the challenge. I will gladly pick it up. But still, after like seeing your old Diablo redesigns, I don't really think I stand a chance, so it will be motivating to improve the craftsmanship. Also, one of the things that I do not really like with painting red things is the red is extremely hard color to actually render. It just looks weird, it behaves weird, and we do not really see many things with like the red skin, like completely red skin. I don't even think there is a single animal that has like the entire body red. Some birds do have like red feathers and everything, but I don't think anything has like a solid red skin for the entire body. I only can think of like the ass of some sort of a like monkey or something like this. They usually have like the red strong red colors in there, but not much more. So also what I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of like refining the colors and everything and details. In this like refining phase you can, what is this layer? In this like refining layers you can also like increase the darkness of some places. Yeah, but the fish is like it scales, not necessarily like the skin. But yeah, this is like a good point. There are some red fishes. Or actually octopuses are kinda reddish, like now as I think about the like water creatures. So I guess only the octopuses are like red. And the bigger things, the octopuses, I do not remember the name for them. Fair point. CD Projekt Red has a red bird on it. That's right. But I don't think it would serve like as a good reference for the demon. I would say it's a bit flat for the shading and everything. I am also thinking that I would add a rim light to this guy, because in the previous designs I was kinda like hesitant to add it because it will go over the line art, but the more I do this guy I kind of feel like he needs some rim light to happen on his body, like behind him, so it might look a bit nicer. Also I might search for, is it in here? No, these are the references. Do I have previous monsters in here? I have some of them because what I wanted to do is to pull out the familiar. Is familiar painted? This one is the painted one? No, this is the old one. Where is the red one? Way too many layers. This is not the painted one. It was not gloom. Wait. Just go through the entire folder. I want to search. Oh, okay, here you are. Is it you? Oh my god, it's cropped. It means everything is cropped in this file. And it means I do not have... Oh, holy shit. It means I do not have the high quality, like, monsters anymore. Fuck. That's bad. And this is why... Oh, that's a bummer. Okay, never mind. I need to open... some previous monsters. Live stream folder, live stream, Diablo mobs, in here. Live stream casual, not in here. Where are they? Digital painting, Instagram. Yeah, I need to have to get some sort of a reference for the quality that I want to achieve, because, as I said, I do not really feel like thinking today. I guess it's happened. And also this is one, like, I guess I will just flatten everything in to this layer. So boom, everything is now a one layer. Because I do not really like this red hue. I kinda like want to change it into something a bit else to make it a little bit more believable in a sense. So I guess I will use some color balance thingies. So I believe this guy could be a little bit more like yellowish, bluish type of a thing. Highlights a bit more blue, a bit reddish, no, bluish, yellowish, yellowish, bluish. Yeah, something like this. So it will turn into a little bit more like orange type of a hues, but I feel I like it better now. Yeah, so this is how it looks like right now, and now a new layer, a clipping mask and everything, and boom, I can like continue rendering. Yeah, because like I'm not a huge fan of using like the really like pure colors for this type of things. Like I strongly believe that if someone would see this type of a monster like in the real life, that they will still like tell he's red, while he is not actually like red. But since it's reddish, then it will still have like the, let's say, the red storm name, because it looks kind of reddish. Like the devils are red, no one will like say, oh, this demon is orange, and no one will call like the orange monster. It will just sound a bit weird. And I would say this is kind of fair what is happening with this guy, because I don't remember the last time when I had like so much, maybe okay, not so much fun, but when the drawing was coming together so nicely. But now the painting is not coming together so nicely, so it evened everything out, like it evened itself out. I feel I do not really have an idea for this guy. I still guess it won't be a tutorial per se, because the thinking is not there today. Yep, if you have it, feel free to post a link to it and I will rate it. Or I will like talk about it. Maybe like changing a topic for a brief second will like unclog my brain. Also, if you are like a demon and if you are like playing a lot with electricity and everything, I imagine your hands to be a little bit darker, kinda like burned. So I will really slightly change the original design, but I feel like this guy would have like darker hands and darker legs, just because I kind of feel like he needs a little bit more variation inside of him, and I want the eye to be a bit darker in the mouth area. And the first thing that I will do, I will remove the color from it, so I will set the layer into the color, and then I will duplicate the layer and go with it to the soft light. Soft light will do. And now slightly like rework some of the places so he won't have so many spots. And now also you can see when I change the color of, for example, the legs and the hands gets really dark, especially like the right hand got really dark. So now I can like introduce a bit more like light into it, because I kinda imagine the skin around the hands to be like bit more shiny. I don't know why, but electricity kinda reminds me of something that is shiny. The coal is actually really shiny, and if the skin is really burned, and I can imagine the skin being burned on this guy, it should be a bit more shiny. Like there's not a single hair that is growing on this body, on the body of this guy. So I guess he's really like slick, really shiny. And it also allows me to introduce a bit more color variations. And the cool part is I can also make his face a bit darker. So maybe he like eats the dead skin of his hands, and because they are like coated with coal, maybe his face is also like dirty because he nips on the skin. So he basically like gets his face all in coal. Do I see the link? Let me go to the YouTube. No, on the YouTube channel I do not see the link. But I guess you should be able to send it. If not, you can go through Twitch, because Twitch most definitely allows me to send all the links. So yeah, because like I don't really want to open a Discord right now. I have like a shitload of messages in there, and everything will start like popping up, and all the annotations will start like popping, and it will be like really annoying. Also, Messenger will be fine. Yep. Messenger is also okay. Darker color should go also in here. Some deep shadows. What is also cool about like the skull like color is that it's basically the same shade as the shadows are. So I can like reuse, I can basically shade with like this gray type of a thing, because the environment is white. So if the environment is white, then the shadows are also like without any color. If the main color source would be like colored, so red shadows will, red light will basically means having like a really saturated red shadows, and having like colorless light source will kind of make the shadows be like also colorless. Of course later some like reflected type of a shadows will like start happening and everything. So for example, like his leg will like reflect the light, and it will like make the, like let's say this part of an arm to have like this red tint to it, but I want to add it later. I don't want to like tackle everything at the same moment. I kind of want to like add everything gradually. So for example, his stomach will be way more red. It will be reddisher, redder, more red. I don't know if there is a word for something being more red. Bluer, redder, yellower. I have no idea. Because the light bounces off his legs and lights up the stomach from the below. So let me open it. Ah, it's the goo. I do not have the... I asked for the thing to be able to open the link, because it's private, not public. So you have to change like the availability of the links. And on top of like not feeling like thinking, I also feel like hungry. Forgot to eat today a bit more. So now I need to deserve food by making a nice demon. And this is definitely a day where I wish Photoshop could just like be a slider and just slide a bit more to the right to get more finished painting, instead of like you have to do everything from scratch. Okay, so the basic idea for the reflected light is the white light shines onto the skin basically captures some of the like wavelengths, and it reflects the red wavelength to our eyes, so we can see it is actually red. And if it reflects the red light, it basically means the skin now is pretty much a red light source, which basically means that everything that is in shadow will get affected with it. So if I were to use, for example, like overlay, I can like kind of increase the red hues in places like here and here. I don't know if using the red light is actually a good way to like add it, to add like the red hues to everything, but I think it works. I don't think it looks like bad in a sense. So like the bottom of a hand, the armpit, the stomach area, the bottom of his like neck and chin will get a bit more red, and then side of his mouth. I don't want it to be like overwhelmingly red, so I will like at first do it way too strongly, like way too much, and then I will see if like any other different blending mode will do a better job with it. And I guess the vivid light looks kind of cool. I will decrease the opacity. Let's see. Yeah, the opacity kind of works. And now I will also make it not affect the darkest parts. So it will like, whoops, it will have like this visual differences in it. So not everything now is covered by the color. Now I can like have a little bit more fun with it. So now I can kind of put it in here, in here, in here. Basically now I can create a little bit more variation to the colors again, which is fine. If you are going to color something, there should be some variations in the color actually happening. So now as you can see, the entire thing, it got a little bit more red into it. So I think it looks a bit cooler. Now let me see the image, the sketch. Let me download it. Let me put it in here. Onto the top, and this is the guy from Dying Light, I guess. I actually have there you are. Wait a second. Well, it's now time to flex. I bought like the collector's edition for like 100 zł, so basically like $30. So here is this guy in real life. So I can basically like look at this guy and just give you a feedback accordingly to him. So if this is a fan art, and I believe it is, then I would say it's a good start, but it's a bit messy. Can maybe actually do so. Here he is, so you can see him. Yep, basically the same position. So the first thing is you it kinda looks like you do not really know what is happening in here in this area. So I would study this area a bit more, like the trapezius and basically the traps, not trapezius, traps. Yeah, these are trapezius muscles. The traps basically have a really weird connection in here. It could be improved in a sense. The eyes are also kinda, I would say, messy because the way you are drawing the eyes looks kinda like you go for this shape and then you add like the eye into it. And it basically causes the eye to look like a sticker, not like a something that has any dimension to it. Okay, I will stop showing this guy so you can see how I talk, if this really matters. I can place him right here. This is not... This is like the new guest for the live stream. And the idea with the eyes is that you have a sphere and you have like the, not iris, the thing on the eye, and this thing that you are seeing with, and this is basically like a sphere. So this is like a solid sphere. And then try to imagine to add like something that has a thickness and kind of looks like a piece that you will get if you like try to eat an orange. You will get something like this type of a geometry, and it will happen on the bottom and on the top. It kind of looks like the thing that the knights have on their helmets. So this is like one of the things that you should consider while drawing this type of a guy. And the second thing is basically just use a little bit more references for like teeth, for example, and for like the jawline, because again, it kind of looks like you have the general idea how this guy looks, but he do not really have like this type of a thing for like a jawline that with some like teeth on it. I would say the shape could be like a little bit more developed in a sense, so something much more interesting could happen in here. There should be a little bit more like changes of planes, changes of thickness and whatnot, so maybe some like tendons would actually be connected to it, like different tendons. And then in here you could have like a place for some teeth, because the thickness actually allows to place some teeth and whatnot. So a little bit more could like happen with the face. And the same thing kinda is, let me just add, whoops, let me just add a bit of a background in here. And the same thing happens with like the second like part of a jaw. The idea is at the beginning they should be really symmetrical. So if you have like a jaw, let's say really simplifying the shape, it looks kinda like something like this, let's say. And if you remove the middle, and if we for example add like this type of a thing into it, everything should go into perspective. So if we remove the middle part, like if we disconnect the jawline, the jaw basically, then those things will still be in perspective. In your case, it kind of looks like the one is kind of like going normally and the second one is like tilted or twisted or something like this. I do not really buy the geometry of this guy. I do not say it needs to be perfect, but it should be like considered while drawing this type of a thing. And for the tongue, I don't really think this guy has a tongue. Or if he does, I guess it will go a little bit more from this place, like deeper from the jaw. Because now it looks kind of awkward. Now you kind of looks like he's mocking something. So yeah, this is like the basic things that I would do with this guy. And definitely take a reference for the lighting. and everything, because this now looks like a like okay base with the colors, and now you should add like a little bit more light to it, and that's pretty much all that I would say. So yeah, this is that. And now I see I needed those break, but now I see this entire guy is way too red. I do not want him to be that red. I want him to be closer to this guy. So I need to add a bit more of a bluish hues to him. Maybe not that much. Whoops. Okay, now I like it more. And now even the claws and the horns got like this chemical feeling to them, almost. I need to like change the colors of the horns a bit. So I will like add it in here, here. And basically, guess I will just change the color of them. But I kind of want to like have this like thing to go through a bit through them, so there's like some color variation happening in here. So I will render it a bit more. This bony stuff in here. Okay, not current layer, all layers. And the cool thing is, if you at least manage to render like one spot, like for example, you manage to render nicely something on the back, on the chest or whatever, like even if it's like extremely small area, the nice part is you can always like treat those places as your like main reference, and you can color pick the shit out of it. So also this is like one of the tactics that I think work really well, especially if you have like a really big illustration to make. Just render nicely a small part of it, and then just color pick from it, from this part. Because it will make your entire life easier. And rendering like a small part, like a small portion of it, it's not really that hard usually, but it can make the entire painting go way smoother, go way nicer and way easier. And also I want to color the claws on the legs. And I forgot that his pubes need to be darker. Because drawing a dick on a live stream, I mean drawing a cartoon dick is okay, but drawing like a demon looking dick in a style that is a little bit closer to the realism, I can imagine might be a huge no-no for YouTube. So instead of like having not a cape, a sash, like some piece, something like with the material on it, it should be fine. Now also here's the first problem that I have with this style. The line really determines a lot. And in here, for example, the teeth cannot really show because they are really thin and the lines are kind of obscuring the view. So I need to paint on top of the line of the artwork, of the line art. But painting on top of the line art gets dangerously, like makes it dangerously close to actually like rendering everything really, really nicely. And if I like do this at least once, then I would not be able to like convince myself to not do it again and to not increase the overall quality of it. Which basically means that soon every single monster that I will plan to make will basically take me like 10 hours instead of like 30 minutes as I intended at the beginning. And personally, I do not know if this is okay or if this is something that I would like to do. But maybe I would. But most likely after this, it will change into like a little bit more even a designing type of a thing. So instead of like just redrawing them in a higher quality, I will start actually redesigning them. And this will take even more time. And then for like the entire month, I will be like live streaming one monster, painting it from the scratch. So I guess I will have to like find really clever solution to actually make the entire thing go a bit faster and a bit easier. Or maybe I should embrace the higher quality. Also, if the stream is working, you can let me know, because the Streamlabs kind of like resets the timer from time to time, and I have no idea if everything is working or if it's not working at all. It didn't like mess up the connection, so if someone could like say something, I would see that it is still working. Because there is a possibility that now I am talking to the ghosts. Also, let me see on the YouTube if it does work. Yep, it looks like it's working. Okay. So only the Streamlabs is like behaving a bit weird. Please don't talk about food. I am hungry. But if everything works, then I am happy. Then it's fine. Don't really like the position of this legs. It looks kind of flat, no matter how I draw it. I guess it will continue to look like this. I will need to kind of like make it a bit darker, the muscles from the bottom, so they can like kind of pop out of everything. I feel like I really need to separate like the middle part of a quad muscle from like this teardrop shape. I don't really like how the delta is looking. And also one of the things that is really cool if you are like painting something, and also this is a thing that I was struggling for a really long time, is actually the textures on the painting itself. So with the textures you can get away with a lot of stuff that you are going to make, because the textures will kind of like take care of it. So it is kind of related to the things with like adding different like shades of the same color to the painting, because it will like make it visually a little bit more interesting. But also the textures can like really make the painting look way better. If I will get rid of every single texture that I have in here, most likely the painting will look like shit. I don't say it does not. I think it looks at least decent or okay-ish. But I think removing all the texture work would cause the entire painting to kind of really fall. And to make it look much worse. So don't be afraid to use textures and to leave them somewhere in some places. And also remember, usually the shadows are much more saturated than the parts in the light, so it's also a nice thing to do to increase the feeling of a volume. So if you have like a shadow, like a really deep shadow in here, I will really increase the saturation for the shadow, so it will look even like deeper, even darker. So like instead of using like a solid black, I would use like an extremely saturated orange, a really dark saturated orange. It will like bring everything out. And using this type of a trick, I would say, in like places like muscles, in like shadows, will really nicely make them pop out, because you will basically add a core shadow like this. And the core shadow basically is the darkest shadow that you will encounter on any type of a geometry, because this is the place where the least amount of light like hits the surface, and the least amount of reflected light also hits the surface, like hits this place. So it kind of creates this like cool looking line that usually is really visible in the academic artworks. And this is actually like a core shadow. So you can say this is like the core part of the shadows, which is kind of neat, because you can see it really makes the thing pop. It's really to overdo it with all the core shadows and everything. So you really need to be kind of like maybe careful with them, but also it can increase greatly the contrast between like the surface in the light and the surface in the shadow. So it can create like this darker outline on your shadow, and this is okay. I think it's great. And the funny part is the hands are actually greenish. So what I want them to be a little bit more bluish, so I will add some like small core shadows on the fingers and on the, I think the hand needs a bit more light in here. So yeah, a bit brighter. So this is like a really cool part about colors. I wouldn't say by any means that his hands are actually like teal or greenish. I thought they were like gray or bluish, and it turns out they are actually like, they have like this green tint to them. And this is the thing that I really like. And to increase the feeling of a form, I will also introduce some like cross hatching on the muscles to kind of like guide your eye around the forms. So on the chest, I will kind of make some markings that will go against the striations. So if striations are horizontal, the markings will be vertical. And sometimes I will just rub them around. So basically also, yeah, on the skin, on the bicep, the striations are vertical because of the bicep, and the lines that I will draw will like wrap around the form. So this is like a really nice double way to increase the feeling of volume, because as you can see now, I can wrap everything around the forms, increasing the feeling of, well, of the volume on it. And it will also like kind of allow me to make some shadows a bit, well, make some shadows a bit more delicate, because in here I strongly believe the core shadow is not really gently shaped. So I can like soften it visually with like some lines, and also it kind of fits to the, let's say, style that I wanted to achieve with this guy. And also visually it can create like another set of a texture, like distinctive texture on the surfaces that I want to paint. So like all the things will add up together and will allow me to create a really nicer looking demon. And I want the horns to be a little bit more rough in a sense. I need to darken them a bit. To be honest, I wouldn't say I can't wait for the bosses, because if I would start doing bosses right now, I don't think I would do them justice. But I can easily say that I feel much more confident with drawing all of these guys like now, instead of like how I felt at the beginning. And I feel like I will be only able to like make the bosses look much more cooler after finishing all the monsters, because like pretty much every single monster really presents new challenges. And even with guys like this, as I said, I don't really feel like drawing and painting today, but I will like brute force through it. So it will also like allow me to most likely produce better designs in the future if I brute force through the things that I do not really feel like doing. But yeah, still a really long way to go for the bosses. Maybe in like meanwhile, if I've like start randomizing all the skeletons again, because I was not painting a skeleton for like 2 streams at the moment, and this is like crazy. And I kinda am afraid that at some point I will like randomize all the archers in a row, because I had 0 archers, 0 skeleton archers, and there are 4 of them, and they are waiting. And I strongly believe the more of the normal monsters I do, there is the bigger chance that I will like start a strike all the archers. And then after I will have like, I don't know, a 10th skeleton in a row, I might consider doing like a boss skeleton. So this will be like a preview of how the bosses can look like. So actually doing like a boss skeleton might be a really interesting type of a challenge. Also, this guy has like a really thick layer of fur on his crotch area. But what is also really cool about designing demons and everything is not necessarily this guy must be a male, because the demons are not born in like a traditional way, let's say. I strongly believe, do not make love to each other, or at least this demon do not, because I said so, so he doesn't, or she. And maybe this guy actually is a female. This will be really interesting then. If this were like a male, like a traditional male in traditional understanding, and if I could like draw it on a live stream with like a monstrous like balls and everything, most definitely I will do so, because this is also like a really cool like way to design something a little bit more in depth, because you can only imagine the terror. And this is something that I have done with one of my older works with a troll that I was painting. Like, imagine the terror that you will encounter if you are like fighting with a monster, and you know that most likely if he will defeat you or she will defeat you, or in this case he will defeat you, he might do really nasty things to you. And then the monster gets really much more terrifying, I would say. It's a really easy way to make a thing more terrifying. Especially if this is like a demon like a succubi or something like this. It's a really interesting thing that can be utilized while designing a monster. So usually I would say this topic is avoided in most designs. I can understand why, because it could like lead to a really silly type of a thing is to happen, but and the entire project could be taken a bit less seriously. For example, in Dark Souls, I can easily imagine some of the monsters like doing really bad things to you after like defeating you, but it would kind of kill the mood of the entire game. it will be really hard to actually pull mechanic like this off. I guess in tabletop paper or RPGs, stuff like this can add a little bit more humor to the entire game, because someone can get like into a really interesting situation and can get a really interesting nickname after some of the things can happen to them, but this is like really hard things to pull off. But what I was saying is normally I would draw like a dick or something like this in the monster. But now when I think about it, it will be cool to actually design the entire like reproduction system of the demons and everything. So it's not like they just are born in fire and that's all, but to add a little bit more depth into it. How they are created, how they're developed, or if they just show up like grown and they know everything, what needs to be done and how to do everything. I would say this is still really open for the interpretation. The entire display needs to be much darker, because there's like the armpit and the place where the pec actually connect to the armpit usually is a bit darker, and also will allow the thumb to shine a bit more and this nail to also shine a bit more. And everything. I guess I will add some VFXs right now with actually in here there is a really ugly place, so it needs to be reworked with the red lights, because this guy is named Redstorm. So I strongly believe not only he is called Redstorm because he is red, I can imagine him throwing like a red energy thingies. Now I kind of feel bad about this tail being like this, but I will just leave it. So, to make a really cool looking light storm, we need a brush that will have like a 100 opacity to it. Then we need like a darker hue of a red that will be like this. It will go over the thing. Then I need a reference for the electricity actually. Electric discharge, let's say. Can I see? Yeah, I found some references. Because I want to kind of like draw and paint some like storms and everything. And to make things look nice, I will use some references for the coils that are producing the lightnings. And maybe some thunder photos. Thunder. So it will generally give me a better idea on the shapes, how I should draw them. But the basic idea is, if this lightning is a colored one, it should have like this basic color, it should have a glow, and it should have like the inner glow, because the inner glow will actually cause it to look a little bit more like 3D. So, outer glow. The outer glow should be smaller, and it should be red. And it should be like linear.add, so it will kind of like brighten everything out. The problem with this method is the layers will affect the background. So basically the fact that it looks like somehow cool makes it like really dependent on the background. But as you can see now, if I got inner glow to it, and if I will play a bit with it, I get like this really nice looking like edge to it. It kind of makes it look a little bit more like a lightning. I could go like just into pure white, increase the size, and then it will be like pure white, but I really believe that leaving this small inside produces this nice looking detail. And painting with layer styles is extremely fun because it's basically just like doing all of the things. And for this guy, at first I want to like paint like the main like thingies to happen. And as I said, I kind of want him to channel all the electricity throughout like his nails. So the nails are basically like working as a coils, I guess. So he's not like creating a ball of lightning that he's shooting out. He's kind of like producing he kind of works like a taser, I guess. Because I think if you would touch this guy right now, you would most likely die. Yeah, so and now if those guys actually touch the fingers, I can create like the smaller fingers going around on his fingers and arms and everything. So basically the thunder, the electricity will go through his entire arm and will go around, and it will like arc between fingers because electricity creates arcs. And the way I'm drawing it is basically I'm trying to draw it straight, but I'm vibrating with my arm. So actually the vibration kind of causes like the lightning look like a lightning, because it's kind of like hard to predict how it should go. And I really want to give him an eye. And later maybe I will see maybe actually making the entire thing like really dark red will look cool, but first I want to like make it look like a proper lightning, like a proper electricity type of a thingy. So it will like create those small arches around. So now I'm kind of like adding the, let's say, secondary or tertiary detail to the lightnings. I have like the main shape, and now I'm adding like the small things. Thank Ataberg. Can't stop thinking about the fantasy set. The Hauberg of Ataberg. Full metal plate of Ataberg. The tower shield of Ataberg. It sounds cool. Also for this guy I could just use the photo. I could just like slap it on top of and just distort it, but I kind of want to draw some thunders. Like on one project that I am working right now, I'm doing quite a lot of VFXs, and I have been painting like trees for like the last month. And the main one of the feedbacks that I was getting was, it looks like a thunder, change it. It looks like electricity, change it. So now I can basically try to draw a tree, and most likely I will end up with drawing the electricity. So cool. But this is a really nice experience to have. Yeah, and the problem with it is while the electricity is over his body, it looks okay. When it's in the hole between the arms, it kind of starts to disappear because the background is quite bright. So maybe if I turn off the inner glow, now it looks evil as hell. And I really like how it looks right now, like with this like bright red type of a thing. It looks kind of a little bit more like a blood though. So maybe I will add inner shadow, but instead of like making it a shadow, I will make it like this small white ridge. Yeah, most likely the eyes will be the same color, but now I kind of want to at first take care of this guy. Maybe it should be like a little bit more pinkish, like. And this is the cool thing with the layer styles. You have like a lot of control over the things that you are doing. You can also add to drop shadow. Drop shadow can be set as normal, distance, size. So you can also make the entire thing much darker, so I can like create a dark outline for it. Or instead of like making it actually drop a shadow, I can make it like create a red type of a thing to happen on overlay, on like really bigger spectrum. So now as you can see, it's not that visible, but it creates like this additional glow to it, which kind of makes the entire thing a little bit easier to see. But also in here you can see the problems with this method, because when it crosses together, it kinda gets lost. So because it's not treating everything as the individual strands. But I can go with something like this. So it goes from the center to the center. And now the center part will be like brighter. Also, you can play a bit more with a contour to see different effects. This shit looks cool. Now it looks like a proper blood lightning. But again, I do think this looks more like a blood. This looks now a little bit more like a lightning. When it kind of gets darkened inside, it is blood. Now it's lightning. But now the red is a little bit too red. So maybe it should be like a bit more pinkish. The drop shadow also should be a bit more like that red. I would say it still looks a little bit too much like blood. So I think, and also turning off the opacity is a good idea, because it will like make sure that I only have like the sharpest edge in here. And to make it a little bit more, yeah, I think it kind of defines the point. And to make it look a little bit more like an electricity, it should have a bit more of the smaller arcs. So it's basically, I guess, adding the detail over and over and over again. Most likely also there is like a really solid logic into like adding everything. I can now paint with like bright red. Do I like how it looks? I don't. I guess instead of like using the linear dodge, that kind of makes like the overglow, I would use like the normal layer. And only I will slightly just give it this like pinkish tint to it. I think it kind of gets rid of the problems of it making it look like a blood. And I don't really want to make the entire thing way too like red. can be like slightly reddish. So this one is clearly blue, but if I were to change, let's see, the blue hue, the like blue thing, into the reds, how it will look like. Yeah, so basically something like this. Then all it does, it basically like it basically has like the tint over it. But as you can see, a lot of cool stuff is happening in here. Most likely I should like do much more of it, and maybe actually like smudging some places, like the strands on the outside will kind of like increase the feeling of movement, because the tiny things can move like so fast, they are like blending, so it won't be like extremely sharp, because like the entire electricity will be like buzzing and whatnot. So I think this is also a nice way to add a thing to it. And now if I were to add an eye, let's see how it makes the eye look like. It's basically white. I don't want... So for the eye for this guy, I think it should be like entirely dark black. The color should be evil black. And it should have this like dumb looking red eye to it. But it does not fit at all. So I guess it should have like this white looking eye. So it will be a little bit more like a storm. Like this elongated shape to it. That kinda shuts some like smaller bolts around electric discharges. So it kinda likes flamey eyes, but with a different thing. And since this guy is like really heavily electrical, I can imagine even his horns like channeling some of the stuff around. So maybe like a thinner lines happen around his horns, but just barely. Not necessarily over the tail, but yeah. Maybe between mouth also. Like imagine meeting a monster that basically is like puking thunders. Should be terrifying. Yeah, I think it looks like decent. I won't say like I'm extremely happy about how it turned out, but I'm not depressed either. It still looks better than I expected it to be. At this point. So let me remove the references. Let me select the silhouette, because the silhouette will do the shadow. And this guy really nicely fits to the shadow, because the legs are pretty much on the same like height, width type of a thing. So basically this is like a no-brainer to add. Yeah, because but adding like it pretty much won't be visible. It will be abstracted in the view. Whoops. A bit more perspective for the shadow. Shadow a little bit flatter. A bit more to the left. Of course, you can like design the entire shadow and everything, but ain't nobody got time for that. And now, as always, I will only like remove some parts from the shadow in the background, so it won't be as hard, as dark. And with the shadow that is really thin as this one, it looks really nice because it's basically creating the gray color because of the like lines that are appearing in here. So I think this is how this guy looks like. I would say, and why the hell this eye went there? Oh, I forgot to select it. Okay. Hello, dev to do. Yeah, so basically this is how this guy looks like. Am I happy with it? I don't know. But as I said, it looks a bit better than I expected it to be. So this is the entire thing, and let's see if I can... Yeah, and this is also the cool part about using like the normal layers and everything. You can like connect it and nothing basically changes. So let's see how it will tell me about the auto color. A little bit more blue. About auto contrast. Nothing. Auto tone. Nothing. Ooh. So I will only like play a bit more with the levels. So there will be like a small adjustment to contrasts, but really small ones. Thanks a lot, do. And now I can also the neck. I can choose. Oh my god! I can take a look at it, but pretty much, and I'm pretty much wrapping the stream up. So I'm doing the finishing touches now, like with the brighter top part and the darker bottom part. But feel free to like send me anything that you would like to send me, and when I like have time I will pick at it, so no problems. And only small adjustments. So in here those lines look a bit off. Be reinforced. I will like take a look at it after the stream. So feel free to write to me, or I will look at it now. I won't be able to view it through the stream because I'm like sharing the Photoshop screen. RTS, Lord of the Rings, the Orcs, Factions, Reforged. The only problem that you might have with the name Reforged, I guess it might be trademarked by Warcraft already, to name a game Reforged. I'm not entirely sure if this is the case, but I would say it might be problematic for them. So I would like to take a look into the naming, because I don't really feel like making a new game like Reforged or Resurrected. Wouldn't like infringe some like copyrights or whatever. Now people get a bit crazy about those stuff. Really easy to mess up with the names. Not in this area. Looks a bit off. Yeah, so basically this is, I guess, everything for today. So thanks everybody for watching. And only let me randomize the next monster. Oh fuck, I forgot. And also the leg does not look nice. Okay, anyway, this is the end. Where is the Diablo roulette? I managed to like search for the numbers that I do have in here. So now it's number 5. So let's see what's under. Let me first remove the number 5. Number 5. Boom. And why do I feel like this is a skeleton? Holy fuck, I knew it. I knew it. It will be a skeleton. This is a skeleton archer. This is exactly the one I was talking about. And this is the horror one. This is the third horror that I will do. Holy shit. The RNG is amazing. I did a horror, I did a horror captain, and did a horror. I will do a horror archer. So here we go. Next week we will have another skeleton. Isn't that great? I really want to uncover what is under the number 6, but I will like not spoil myself. But I'm 900% sure number 6 is also a skeleton. Yeah, with the previous storm I can, but let me. Holy fuck, this document is huge. Let me just make a bit more place for the entire thing. Of course, easily the first storm looks much worse because I spent on it like half an hour, I guess. It's much less of a thing, of a trouble. But basically, this is how the comparison looks between the first, or maybe one of the first, I don't remember the name. It might be the first drawing that I have done with all the monsters. I'm not sure. I don't remember. So this is the first one. This is the... I don't know which one. 15th, 16th, 17th, something like this. I can easily say the style kinda evolved. It looks a bit sharper, I would say. So yeah, this is how it looks like. Of course, this one is like 4 hours, 4.5 hours, I guess, at this point. And this one is like 30 minutes, so the time difference really make a difference. I would keep it in mind. But yeah, it's nice to see there is some progress to happen. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This is like all for today, and the W to do, however to like write it or read it. If you want to just send me anything, just feel free to contact me through like, I don't know, Facebook or on Discord server. The link is like down in the description, so feel free to like post everything in there. And yeah, thanks for watching and goodbye. Have a good day or night or whatever. Remember to subscribe if you don't already. I don't know, donate $10,000 or whatever. And yeah, that's pretty much all. See ya. Have a good rest of the day.